And at the same time, the country's traditional healers organization says currently working on finding a possible cure for the coronavirus with the help of several local universities. The organization is unhappy with the World Health Organization's position on traditional medicine, accusing it of sending out confusing messages. The WHO was warned against the use of Madagascar's untested medicine, which that country's president, Andre Rajulina, has touted as a cure for the novel coronavirus. For more on this debate, we are now joined via Skype by the CEO of the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority, Dr. Boitumelo Semete-Makoktlela. Good evening, Dr. Boitumelo, and welcome to African Perspective. What do you make about this particular debate around non-pharmaceutical interventions versus scientific interventions?
Thank you. So for us in the area of regulations, it's important that when we look at such products and the claims that they make, that there is scientific evidence that corroborates these claims. So, as we speak now in South Africa, we don't have an application that has come through for this product to be considered by us as a regulator. And so until we see the scientific data, we do issue caution around the use of this product because as a regulator, we're concerned about three things, being safety, efficacy and quality of medicines. And if these medicines make very strong claims to be healing certain diseases, it's important that we've got the scientific data to confirm that.
The argument from the government of Madagascar is that as it stands at the moment, all of the tests that they've done so far, their death toll currently stands at 0, and they contribute or attribute this to the use of this particular herbal tea, Artemisia. Hi, Dr. Boitumelo, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Sure. What do you make of that particular argument?
So, we note the low death rate in Madagascar. However, I must say that, to be able to make such a claim, one would need to do controlled studies where there's very clear scientific endpoints that would show that this product does work. And so I would again caution around mentioning this as the only mechanism that has been able to result in these low death rates. But again, it would be important that we engage on the scientific data. I am aware that the regulator in Madagascar is looking at this work. And so again, as a region, we will be reviewing any scientific data that comes through.
Have they been in touch with your institution, for instance, or any of the laboratories locally? Because the Minister of Health tweeted not so long ago that the government of Madagascar has been in touch and has asked South African institutions to help with the test on this particular remedy.
So for us as a regulator, no, we have not had a formal request or a formal engagement on this product. I do acknowledge that they may have reached out to the National Department of Health and many other stakeholders that are involved in this area of African traditional medicines, because we're not the only stakeholder involved. There's also the Department of Science and Innovation and many others.
And what would the normal steps be when it comes to testing a new remedy or a remedy that is claimed by a certain country to be effective in the fight of any disease or virus of this nature?
So the key thing is whenever there is a product that makes very strong health claims, there needs to be in place randomized clinical trials. There needs to be scientific data that corroborates those claims. And so this is the process that we apply for all drugs, whether it's, even orthodox drugs as well as vaccines. When it comes to African traditional medicines, for us as SAHPRA, we're working very closely with the Department of Science and Innovation and other stakeholders like universities to say, how do we set up a mechanism to be able to regulate these products? But again, I must say, it's important that we have scientific data that corroborates these claims.
And from the data that you currently have available, as you know that this has been a herbal product that has been used for years here in South Africa as well, and we call it umhlonyan. Do you have any data available to prove at least that this particular product can be used in the fight against coughs as well as fever?
So, as Prof. Slim Karim mentioned, this the active in this plant, artemisinin, has been synthesized chemically and it's used for the treatment of malaria. But also there's a lot of anecdotal data around the use of this product. It's not sufficient at this point. I know there's been a lot of research on it, but for us as a regulator, we have not been submitted with any product that has the data where there's an intention for this product to be put in the market for the treatment of COVID. So we know that there is definitely no study at the moment that is looking at the claims of using this product for COVID.
And if we were to be running those trials in South Africa, for instance, how many people would we be using to run such a trial?
So typically with these trials, there's a guidance that we provide as a regulator in terms of the size of the trial, but also, there would be endpoints that would need to be designed. So depending on the endpoints, depending on the nature of the study, whether it's a randomized clinical trial, etc., there's a specific number, and there's very clear guidance on clinical trials for any product that makes any health claims.
And the duration of it?
Again, the duration is dependent on the product. It is dependent on the health claims that need to be made, because you need to test the product to a point that you can determine whether you're able to reach your endpoints or not. There's issues of looking at the side effects of this product, at the toxicity, at the safety. So this is quite an intricate process that needs to be put in place.
Okay, let's just quickly listen into what the Chinese director for the CDC there had to say about non-pharmaceutical interventions when he was in conversation with our foreign editor, Sophie Mukwena, about those interventions and how effective those interventions have been to try and combat COVID-19 in Wuhan quite specifically.
So this is something I'm calling. Looking back, what we have done in Wuhan, and from the very beginning, of course, because this virus, we have so many things hidden. It's a really, I call it covered virus. They have a lot of characteristics we don't know. But what we know, this is a very special unusual virus. And in Wuhan, of course, isolation, quarantine, and treatment, they are all important, for those strategies. Non-pharmaceutical intervention, NPI, is a major strategy, including if you are in China, the traditional Chinese herbs, Chinese medicine. It also in some cases it works. So this is the only thing you can do, because you don't, as you said, you don't have the vaccine, no special drugs. So the only thing you can do is the NPI.
Dr. Boitumelo, listening into what Dr. Go had to say there, can we as South Africa say that we have looked into the Chinese response to COVID-19 and the use of non-pharmaceutical interventions?
I do apologize. I couldn't hear the clip. But what I would say is that as a country, there's a lot of research in the area of African traditional medicines, where we've got a number of universities like the University of the Free State, and we've got departments such as the Department of Science and Innovation that is supporting such research. So there is a lot happening in research of African traditional medicines. But any research that has looked into the impact of these products for COVID, I am not particularly aware of, and I could definitely stand to be corrected. Again, we must just remember that we've only recently been dealing with the COVID pandemic. And so it is, quite early on in the process that we would have a lot of research data on this. But again, I would say we need to engage with the relevant stakeholders around the amount of research that's been done in this space.
Would you be able to share with us what plants are being used or what traditional medicine is being looked into by these various institutions?
So, we know that South Africa has one of the largest diversity when it comes to indigenous plants. But however, as I say, as much as there's a lot of research in this area, I'm not aware of any research that is looking at the efficacy of these products against COVID-19. Certainly, as a regulator, we have not received a single application where there is an interest for the utilization of an indigenous plant for the treatment of COVID.
There's also this whole conversation and debate that's happening, and if you may have heard in our introduction as well, where the South African or African traditional leaders are saying that the WHO does not want to get them involved, and that similar argument has been made here in South Africa as well, where traditional leaders and healers are saying that involve us in the fight against COVID-19, and they feel that they are not being involved by the government. And this is also the issue around the stigma around traditional medicine. How do we address this particular issue?
Yeah, I mean, it's an important one, and I am going to go back to, you know, what I've been saying, and I heard Prof. Slim Karim also mention that, in that for us to ensure that we've got products that are safe, efficacious, and of quality, it is important that we have scientific data for those products. So I think what gives me comfort is that in South Africa, there's a lot of research that is taking place in this area with institutions that are playing a leading role. I think what I would encourage is that there must be an engagement and a partnership with various stakeholders to say what role should African traditional medicines play, and what data, scientific data, needs to be generated, and how do we go about generating that data?
Is this then the conversation that should be had on also a more general basis and around the barcoding and coding of indigenous medicine?
Yes, thank you. I mean, and this is a conversation that is indeed taking place. And, you know, I'll keep referring to the Department of Science and Innovation, because I know that they've played a leading role in this area to support, you know, African traditional medicines and to support the stakeholders in this area. It is quite an active discussion that's taking place.
What would your message be to South Africans currently at the moment, and those who still believe in traditional medicine and want to use traditional medicine for the treatment of COVID-19?
I'd like to propose that we err on the side of caution, and this is purely on the basis that for us as a regulator, and our mandate is to ensure that we've got safe products that are efficacious on the market. We have not received an application for a single product with scientific data that shows that an African traditional medicine, a specific one, is active or has got substantiated claims against COVID-19. I think there are many, you know, complementary medicines that are indicating that they can boost the immune system, etc. But in terms of any product being efficacious against COVID-19, there are none at the moment that have come to us as a regulator.
Okay, thank you so much. Dr. Boitumelo Semete-Makoktlela, who is the CEO of the South African